Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I have a very special episode with you today. As of today, I am finishing and done basically with my library of content, 900 plus hours of content, lots of work. Certainly have taken me quite a lot of work to put that together, but now it's ready for you and you can enjoy it in various ways. You can go on the website and peruse practically most things for free. If you're a paid member, you can access all of the content on the website, or you can access the library online and download the things that are in there for yourself. Or if you want, you can even buy yourself a USB. Here's the nice box, branded box with a Dance of Life sticker on it and a nice, beautiful aluminum USB, 512 gigabytes. Really great thing. The fact that I can fit all this on a USB is pretty profound in my book. But nevertheless, all of that is pretty much done. And I wanted to include a fun episode in that library that I hope will be very edifying to you, something to get your own mind jogging on your own life and your relationship with God, and something that will be very, very encouraging to you and reminding you that God uses all things for the good. If you've read my testimony, you know that I've had a pretty crazy experience in 2021 coming back to Jesus, but you probably don't know all the other crazy events in my life, and I thought I'd share them with you today. I want to share some of that journey. I'm sure there's probably way more than these events, but nevertheless, I want to share some of that journey with you so that you can marvel at your own life, at the plan of God, and how He has worked all things for the good in your life too. Make sure you subscribe, like, leave a comment of what you learn, share with your friends also, and encourage them if they're feeling down on their life. And if they haven't come to the Lord, then maybe this might be a great way to invite them into that process. If you want to support me, you can go to the website. You can grab some merch if you want. You could be a paid member. You can also donate if you want, if you feel so called, or you can grab one of those libraries. That'll support me quite a bit. Also, I just want to announce that there's a new book that I released recently called Berean Q&A. It's a collection of 750 questions that I've posted in quiz format, or people have asked me. About 400 of those questions are discussion questions, a little more than 400, on a variety of topics, practically every major topic. So there's a lot of questions in this book. It's about 600 pages long. It's a very nice, thick book. A lot of great study things in there as well, through the quizzes, through verse blocks, through the study guides, the visual aids that I've put in there from all of the various studies and Bible studies that are created. So it's a great, great book, great for home study, great for home Bible study groups that you're in. Maybe you can even start your own Bible study group or start your own home church. I think it's a great resource, so make sure you check it out. But nevertheless, the years that I give in these following sections are just approximates for the most part. My memory is not super perfect on these things, but it's relatively approximate. So nevertheless, it doesn't matter. My early years. Well, before I was born, my mom had several abortions before me. So I could have been one of them. And yet I was the one that was born, and I was the one that was around. So there's that. Around 3 years old, I was dropped, apparently, and my head hit these stairs around the apartment that we lived, and it made like this. It cracked the stairs, basically, and my head was fine still. I had a pretty big head, so, there's a lot of mass when I was a little baby when it dropped. So hopefully nothing happens because of that. But so far, nothing has happened. As I'm 41 years old, nothing happened, and I'm very grateful for that. Something could have been really bad with that situation. Around that time, also, I had a lot of really bad ear infections. I was taking lots of antibiotics, which caused constipation, and then eventually I had to get a colonoscopy, believe it or not. I know that probably didn't want to hear that, but when I was a toddler, very young, I got a colonoscopy, which was a very horrible situation to be having as a kid because of all the other things. Around 4 years old or so, I used to run away from preschool with a girl. I don't know, I guess she was my girlfriend or something. And we would run away, and I would literally just walk. I would just take her. I would run away from school. We would walk across town. I don't know where the hell we were going, but we were going somewhere. And, that's pretty cute. People thought it was cute, but the more I've learned about all of these child abduction things, especially in Romania, especially in these places where nobody knows anything about anything if you get abducted, and the sex trafficking ring, the child usage that they have with sacrifices and stuff, I thank God every time I think of that I was never abducted and sold into slavery. I could have been one of these kids trafficked. I mean, that could have happened with the things that I was doing, and God protected me, and that's a profound thought. Around 5 years old, the family fled communist Romania. There was a revolution there, obviously, in 1990. And we were refugees. That was a pretty rough situation. We were running, from that country, and there were people outside with weapons and things. Windows were boarded up. People were pretty crazy, and the country was pretty unstable. But God protected us. When I came to America, I had a lot of experiences that were obviously awkward at first because I didn't know the language, so I was very insecure. And when I was on the bus one time going home, I fell asleep on the school bus, and I woke up and the guy's like, "All right, get off. There's nothing on." I was like, "What, huh?" And I'm getting off. I'm like, literally, it's a late afternoon. I'm in a place that I have no clue, and I'm lost. I'm totally lost. And so I'm sitting there. I'm worried. And then suddenly I see this cop come towards me, and he came at me, and he stopped. He said, "Hey, are you okay? Where are you at?" And then I ended up getting a ride home. So that was my guardian angel. I think God definitely was responsible for that, because that, again, could have been a situation where I could have been abducted, could have been taken, and yet I wasn't. So God really protected me there. Now, fast forward to my teenage years, around 10 years old. I was in Romania, and we went to this monastery. And it's a very superstitious situation. You think that you're going to burn in hell if you eat meat, and all these things that they convinced me that when I was a teenager. And we were going away after the monastery. We were driving away, and we passed this train track. And for some reason, we were on the train track looking at the map, and then we took off the train track. And then right after we took off the train track and we basically moved the car, the train went whoosh right past. Like, we didn't even see it. It was a crazy situation. I don't even really remember it too much, to be honest with you, but it could have been very, very, very bad. Very bad. Around that time, around 10 years old, I was in Romania with my cousin, and we were walking around the park, and these two gypsies were like hanging out with us and befriending us. And eventually one of them pulled out a knife and like held us up. And my cousin, I was 10, 11, whatever. I was just paralyzed with fear. Right now, I probably would have jumped in and, beat the other guy up. But at the time, I was very scrawny, very afraid. And my cousin goes at it and starts punching this guy in the face. And, the other guy like takes him down, and the other guy pulls a knife. And then I'm like, oh crap, like my cousin's going to get stabbed. And then we're out in the public, thank God. So this other guy came, this adult, who said, hey, what are you doing? He stopped him from doing it. He like basically stopped this guy, and then we had a chance to run. And so we ran away. Of course, my cousin made fun of me for being a coward, but nevertheless, that could have gone really, really poorly. Around 11 years old, I was playing tag with my friends at my Catholic elementary school, St. Francis, which of course was very old school. The door to the bathroom was like glass, and just this wooden door. And they run into the bathroom and they slam the door on me, and I'm running and I'm like, oh crap. And so my hands go through the glass, and I get like totally cut up on my palms, and I'm bleeding. I mean, it looks really bad. It was probably not as bad as it looked, but it looked really bad. But that could have ended really poorly, because if the glass was here on my wrist and it cut my wrist, that could have been really a dangerous situation. And that didn't happen. God protected me, even though I was running around with my friends and they were being really playing shenanigans. Around that time, around 11 years old, I was also in my room, and my mom would read the Psalms to me when I was like little and, 10, 11 years old, something like that. And my mom would read the Psalms to me and I would fall asleep. And she would also have a candle there, and, the Orthodox, with their candles, they have a little oil candle, and that candle caught on fire. And when I woke up, there was like smoke in the entire room. And it didn't catch the room on fire. It could have, because it had little things under it and whatever else. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it could have caught the room on fire, is basically the point. And yet it didn't. And I had inhaled all that smoke, which is not good, but nevertheless, God saved the house that day, because it could have gone really, really poorly. Around 12 years old, I had appendicitis in Romania, and they didn't know what it was at first. So they made me lay down. Like I was in the boonies in Romania at my cousin's farm, and they put like a warm thing compress over my stomach, which is horrible if you have an infection. But they didn't realize. They thought, oh, maybe it's a stomach flu or something. Who knows what it is? With a iron, like when you're ironing something, and kind of just warm it up, which is so stupid. If you warm up an infection, it accelerates the problem, and it could have popped. So I could have died, but I didn't. I was taken to a hospital there. I ended up getting a spinal tap. They did surgery on me. I was kind of half awake almost. It was really quite bizarre. Then they did a bunch of antibiotic shots in my butt. I couldn't even sit for like a week after that. It was a really harrowing experience, especially when you're 12. And that reminded me that God is always there for us and keeping us safe. Around that time, I was also getting picked up from school by my dad. And we were passing an intersection that was around kind of a ghetto place in town. If you're in Phoenix, if you know where Indian School and like Central is. Right now, it's very different. They've done a lot with that. But, like 20 plus, 30 years ago, whatever, it was a very different place. So we're stopped at the light and there's a car in front, literally right in front. And the guy's like doing these signs and stuff through the window. And I'm like, what the hell? And there's this other guy over here behind this like tiny like little wall. It's not like a full wall. It's like it's like a little tiny wall. And the guy's like doing this and, whatever. And he flips him off. And then you suddenly look at this guy and he goes, whoosh, and he ducks under the wall. And then you look back at the car and the guy's like pulling out an Uzi, literally an automatic, and it goes, it's like firing at the guy or something. It was a pistol or something. I think the guy coming up the next, like a couple moments later, the guy comes up that ducked down. He comes up with an automatic. I think he had an automatic. He's like, boom, 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 and he's firing into the car in front of us. My dad's like, get down, gets my head, shoves it down. I'm going to get my gun. I'm like, no, just go. It was wild. And of course, then it turns a green light and then the car runs and there are guys firing at him and we're ducking. It's just madness, total madness. But God saved me from that too. Around that time, I also fell off a dirt bike because it had a gas leak. I didn't get injured. Suffice it to say that made me never want to ride a motorcycle again. But I could have gone very poorly falling off that dirt bike. Around that time, I also was chased by this giant dog in our neighborhood. It just was loose and it started chasing me. And of course, I got home before it could get me, but it was pretty scary. When I was a freshman in high school, at my Jesuit high school, a bunch of preppy boys, I was sitting and eating lunch. And these kids were, for some reason, making fun of me and throwing things at me. They were starting to throw like carrots at me, right? They were throwing carrots at me. They hit me in the face. I'm like, all right, And then I perceive a golf ball literally whizzing past my head. They could have hit me straight in the head. That would have been a real problem. In the eye, maybe it could have been really bad, but it missed my head. God protected me and it missed my head. And I just lost it. I was like, you want mother effers? You want me to get something to do? You want me to do something to be expelled? Then I will do something to be expelled. And then I went to the dean. I was like, you need to do something about this. This is a Jesuit school. This is a preppy school. What kind of treatment is this? If I'm paying tuition and so on. And they all got called in the office. They all got in pretty hefty trouble. So that was nice little justice for them. But nevertheless, that could have gone really, really poorly. Around, I think probably junior year of high school, something like that. Again, it's not super clear, but I was driving with my grandmother on the freeway, and this car literally spins out like this right in front of us, and it's a disaster. And I'm like weaving and weaving left and right, trying to not hit it. And of course, we ended up being okay, but that could have been really, really bad. In college, around 19, I dealt with panic disorder. I had an injury, and that injury was basically leading to an anxiety because my chest was really hurting from that injury. It was just a rib that was misplaced. But I didn't know what it was at the time, and so I thought I was having a heart attack or something, and that created anxiety. I didn't have awareness of what anxiety is, and that took over my life. I was completely controlled about my anxiety. I was very much getting panic attacks constantly. Sometimes I would have to pull over to the side of the road because my hands were shaking and I was having low blood sugar and all kinds of stuff. And the doctors wanted to put me on antidepressants and all, like Levapro, I think, or was it Levapro? Is that the name of the medication? I think anyway. So yeah, I didn't do that. And I ended up training myself to let go of it little by little. And of course, God is behind that because otherwise I probably would have been on antidepressants. Around 22, while having that panic disorder, I choked. I choked on some food pretty bad. And I was okay. Obviously, I'm still here. But because of that, I developed an eating disorder for many years. Not only did I have panic disorder, I had eating disorder where I couldn't chew my food and swallow it because I was getting a panic attack while eating because I'd associated anxiety to eating, if you can imagine such a thing, to basically not be able to swallow. I would have breaks at work for like half an hour and I could eat like maybe one bite. It was really, really bad. So I taught myself slowly to eat. I trained myself to eat again and going slow and being present to the food. And I thank God for that. Around that time, also I ran out of gas in Death Valley, around the Death Valley area, if you know what that is. We were going to a dance competition. Worst possible place to run out of gas. But of course, thank God that we had some friends behind us that helped us get some gas. But otherwise, that would have been a really bad situation. No reception. The weather is horrible. You know, it's just a horrible situation, especially who knows what kind of people drive by there. Now, as an adult, this is from about 24 to 34 years. These are all just kind of various experiences. I went to the jacuzzi one time. I like to go to the jacuzzi around here. There's a Biltmore, and there's a a pool there you can go. And I was there, and there was this like really big dude there, and he was in the jacuzzi, and I was in the jacuzzi, and I'm like, okay, whatever, like, you know, nothing weird, you know, would have to be weird. And so I'm sitting there, and my foot, oh Lord, you know, it's so funny. You got to laugh. I was like moving my foot around the jacuzzi. I was, you know, in the water. I'm just relaxing like this. I'm, you know, putting my foot around, and I feel something. I was so in my mind about whatever the hell I was thinking about that I wasn't even cognizant of what my foot was feeling. I was like, oh, that's weird. Was that like something in the jacuzzi? Like, I was like playing with it. And I'm like, oh crap, that's the guy's foot. And I look at him, he's like looking at me like, oh, okay, that's how you swing? I'm like, no. That's not how I swing at all. So he starts talking to me, and long story short, you know, at the end, he's like, so you want to, and he's like, had like a German accent. He's like, so you want to come up to my room? Yeah. I'm like, oh, no, I'm okay. And at the moment I felt like I genuinely felt, I was like, man, this is what women must feel like when they're all alone and walking a parking lot or whatever, like they feel, you know, I genuinely felt like this guy could overpower me if he wanted to. He's like, okay. And he shook my hand. He looks at me like straight in the eye, and he's like, his hand is like a bear claw. And just squeezes my hand really hard. Like, I don't know if that was supposed to be like trying to turn me on or something, but it definitely didn't. So that was a really weird situation. I had a serious infection around my 30s that had to be rushed to the hospital. I almost died. I was hiking with a girlfriend one time in Sedona, climbing a rock that was not probably supposed to be climbed, and there's no support. And if I had fallen, I could have died very easily. I look back and I'm like, why the hell would I ever do such a thing? I can't believe I did that. But nevertheless, God preserved my life. I had another girlfriend who I was living with, and she was a little hoodlum, I learned after the fact. But at one point in time, I came home literally from work, and there was this like 12-year-old sitting on the couch with her. I'm like, hello, what's going on? Why is this girl here? Oh, this is my friend. She's like running away from home. She's going to crash here for the night. I'm like, no, she's not. Not in hell, she's not. Because I could be thrown in jail, you know, and basically be accused of assaulting and whatever. Like, you could be a witness. Like, no, I'm not dealing with that. She's completely clueless, right? So I'm like, nope, you got to get out. You got to get out right now. Don't deal. And thank God that she did. Thank God that she did. Because later that night, I went to go take out the trash, and I see this group of people hanging out down where like the cars are, where the parking lot is. And of course I'm like, oh crap. Well, because the garbage can is over on the other side, right? So I went to the garbage can, and I was like, oh man, I got a really bad feeling. I got a sinking feeling in my stomach. When I come back, they surround me, these people, and be like, hey, you know where this girl's at? I'm like, what do you mean? I played dumb for a little while. They started slapping me around and like, tell us, mother effer, you know, like, where's she at? And they eventually broke into my house. They broke into my condo, and they beat this girl up. They robbed a lot of my stuff. They didn't really rough me up so much. They did slap me around in the beginning, but they didn't rough me up. They didn't, you know, do anything beyond that. And eventually the cops came, and they had to be dispersed. And I learned that they had some backup coming, And that particular backup was connected to a very dangerous gang. And that gang would have definitely killed us if the cops hadn't come. And thankfully, this girl that I was dating had called the cops because she heard me arguing. Basically, if she hadn't called the cops, I would have been dead for sure. They would have come up, shot up the place, and then see you later. I don't care. But thank God the cops were there. And I lived to see another day. Of course, that girl was also very violent. I had a very violent relationship with her. Unfortunately, she was very violent. She would throw things at me, and it could have been much worse. It could have gotten very abusive. I got out of it, I think, just in time. But I probably could have gone to prison if she had pushed my buttons too much at the time. And she was definitely not regenerate. I wasn't either. It was a very bad situation. So God really saved me from that, from many bullets with that one. I had alcohol poisoning around those times, 24 to 34, from too much cheap wine. Don't ask me what I was doing, but very, very bad alcohol poisoning. And a couple times I drove home drunk a couple times, and I never got pulled over. Thank God. Otherwise, that would have been really, really bad. I used to ride my bike around town, and the condo that I used to live in was in kind of it was a decent part of town, but around it, like adjacent to it, you could very quickly get into a very bad part of town. And I would ride my bike willy-nilly, listening to my headphones at night. I was just totally oblivious to these things, and nothing ever really happened, thank God. I had a massive toothache and infection one time, 2 days before a huge performance that I had to do for a Dancing with the Stars event here in Phoenix. I was able to see the doctor the very next day, get the tooth pulled, and perform, even though you're not supposed to do that, perform lifting, doing tricks, everything else, and everything went okay. So God was definitely helping me with that. I went one time to a warehouse rave. Gosh, this is another crazy story. Oh, Lord. Back in my raving days, I went to a warehouse rave wearing these, I don't know what you call them. They're leggings, and they had like a galaxy print on them, like, galaxy, space, and like cats and space cats. It was just really totally stupid. And we're at this rave, and of course, at the time, my friend and I were under the influence, and so we're just like exploring and floating around, and we go into this room because there's multiple rooms in this warehouse type of rave situation. So you have to understand, this is not like an actual concert, okay? Like, this is a very underground, like, you could get stabbed and, nobody knows the wiser that you got stabbed. Like, it's very, very underground type of situation. So we went there, we wanted some novelty, and we certainly got the novelty because, somebody could have just killed you there if they wanted to. So I went into the heavy metal room with my friend, and there's like this band's like guys like, yeah, rock, 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 they're just jamming out whatever. And then the singer looks at me, because I was standing out like a sore thumb. You imagine, like, I was like in a tank top and like these galaxy pants, and everybody there is like a goth, like punk type of person. And I'm under the influence. I'm like, ooh, okay, floating around. Oh, this is interesting. And then the guy like starts looking at me and starts like, rah, 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 rah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is starting to feel very demonic. And then the entire room starts like looking around at me. Like, I literally felt these people were going to jump me anytime. I'm like, I need to get out of here. Very, very strange and dangerous situation. Around those days, again, we got to remember, all these were before 2021. This is before I became a Christian really and came back to Christ. But in my party days, I went to a club one time with my friends, and this guy came up and he was like really shifty. He offered me this little nasal spritzer that's supposed to, they give you like the peppermint and stuff to make you have better breathing. But I got the feeling that it was cocaine in there. He was just very like coked out. He was like, hey, you want to try this, man? Like, it's cool. It's great. It'll really open up your airways. I'm like, I don't think so. And, I was already intoxicated at that point, so I could have made a really bad decision. And, who knows what it could have. It could have been roofied. It could have been something that knocked me out. God really protected me from that. And I've had experiences also with various substances that were probably over the edge and probably could have ended much more poorly, but they didn't. And I was protected, so I thank God for that. Now, recent years, 35 to about 41, which is the present time of this video. So because of my stress conditions and my sleep, imbalances and, HPA imbalances, I wake up to pee at night. It's not something I like to do. Of course, it's not convenient because it's a very disruptive thing for your sleep. So you go to the bathroom. I don't turn the light on when you go to the bathroom because I don't want to shock my system. But one morning, I saw a little bark scorpion right literally on the foot of the toilet there. And bark scorpions are extremely venomous. If I had stepped on that at night, that would have been a real, or if somebody else would have stepped on it, that would have been a real problem. That would have been a very big emergency. But he crawled through a hole that we had in the wall. He was just looking for food. These things aren't necessarily aggressive, but they're exploring. When there's a hole there, they're going to explore. And God protected that from being a really serious problem. Walking through my neighborhood at night, I passed this teenage gang at night. It was like a Sabbath too. It was a Saturday night. And they were, I was going like this. I turned to right because I didn't want to pass them. And then as I turned to the right, I heard them go, "Hey, let's turn, come on, hey, let's go to the right. Let's go. Like, let's go after this guy." I'm like, okay, you want to follow me. So I went a little bit more. I cleared another corner and then I just bolted. And I got out of there, but that could have been really bad. It was definitely a group of like 8 of them. Who knows what they had in their hearts, but they were definitely little demons. Walking through my neighborhood yet again at another different night, there was a car full of these gang members. Somehow they made it into our neighborhood. Our neighborhood's a decent neighborhood, but anyway, they were driving by, and this dude was literally holding his hand out with a 9mm probably, or some kind of gun. And he was just like, like, test me, bro. Like, look at me. Let me shoot your ass, And I just literally, I felt this hand, this gentle hand on my chin, just go like this. Just go, boop, just move your head. Just don't look at him. Look off to the side. Pretend you're looking at something. And I just took a big, deep breath. I'm like, please don't shoot me. And he just went by. That was a very, very intense situation. I would ride my bike sometimes on trails. And one time when I rode it on a trail nearby, I hit a rock and it threw me over the bike. I literally, and as I'm flying in the air, I'm like, Jesus, please help. And I feel like this carrying and kind of setting me down. Like, you got to imagine I'm being thrown up in the air. The bottom is full of rocks and big rocks and stuff. And when I land, like, I don't really get that hurt. Like, it doesn't cause any major problems. So that was, I think, the grace of God right there, because I barely got hurt. I've had situations like that too, where there were cacti that I almost hit. Could have been really, really bad, but I didn't hit them falling off my bike. I was driving my car one time. Now here in Phoenix, I don't know if every place has this, but we have these double suicide type of lanes where basically from a period of time during the day, it's one way, then another period of time, it's the other way, or 2 ways type of situation. It's designed to supposedly help traffic, but I think it's retarded. So anyway, the suicide lane that I was in, it turned 4 p.m. And so now it became just a one-way for the opposite sense. And this guy is like literally coming at me, and there's no way for me to come out. I'm like, this guy's literally not stopping. He's going to run into me. And I finally pull out of this lane, and I look at this guy, and he's looking at me. He's like, and he's like smiling, this demonic grin on his face. Like literally he would have hit me. He was ready to hit me. He was possessed. I'm like, wow, what a crazy situation. And of course, God saved me from that as well. In 2018, I was betrayed by my job. I was fired at my job as a dance teacher, and I lost practically everything. I was threatened with a lawsuit. I sold all of my stuff. I hired a lawyer, and by the grace of God, I escaped. In 2019, I was very sick with COVID, probably one of the first cases on the cruise that I was on, the dance cruise, stuck in a sardine can room and very miserable. But of course, that's when I started to turn back to God and see that my new age, spirituality wasn't getting me anywhere. And you can read more about that in my testimonial. In 2020, COVID happened and I lost everything again, but God allowed me to have unemployment and basically hold me over until 2021. But in 2021, I got scammed. My health also crashed around that time with all the stuff I was doing with iodine. I've talked about that in my health series. And I declared bankruptcy. In 2021, around there, 2020, 2021, I also got SVT. SVT is supraventricular tachycardia, which is basically if you just sat there and your heart just starts going brrrr and freaking out and having a seizure because my thyroid hormones were crashed because of the iodine that I was using. Anyway, you can read more about that in my chapter on iodine in my health book, but it's something that happened because the hormones were crashing. And as soon as the hormones were resolved, it resolved as well. But it was very, very scary. Very, very scary. In 2022, I lost my voice for 9 months and I couldn't do anything. And God used that to help me learn and write my book on prayer, The Way Home, and study and get deeper in all these topics before I started my YouTube channel in late 2022. And of course, ever since late 2022, in the last 3 years, as of the time of this video, I've worked nonstop, 12-hour days to create over 900 hours of content. I've written 7 books, hundreds of pages of presentation notes. I've edited videos. I've created online store with hundreds of products and variations of products. I've answered hundreds of questions. I've done quite a lot. And it's all by the grace of God, because I've had not the perfect sleep, not the perfect energy levels. It's been not the perfect health to be able to do these things on my own. So it was by the grace of God, definitely. So conclusion, I'd like to read to you Psalm 23. Yahweh is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Yahweh forever. Besides these many events, my friends, I'm sure that there are countless that I'm not aware of that God has saved me from and gotten me through. Looking back on my life, it really makes me grateful every single day that I meditate on these things, of how God has brought me into existence and has saved me from so many horrible things. Certainly I've had my own fair share of trials, but God has saved me from so many horrible things, and he has given me the truth. And I'm not deceived, which is something I'm very, very grateful for. He could have let me die in my sins. I could have just been another wicked reprobate, but he didn't. He saved me for his namesake and for his glory. It's truly something to marvel at. And the more I am alive, the more I meditate on these things, the more I marvel. And I hope that it's the same with you. That reminds me that God is always going to provide. He always has a purpose for the suffering that happens in my life. He's always having a direction for things, even though when things maybe seem chaotic. And in that sense, he does that for you also. So I hope this inspires you to look at your own life, to meditate on these things, to reflect, and to make your own list of things. This list here was actually in my phone. I decided to make a video out of it. But I hope it's been edifying. I hope it's been giving you something to look at with your own adventures with God. And if you haven't yet given your life to Jesus, if you haven't yet believed the gospel, I invite you to do that now, because you're still here. You're watching this video. You're breathing. You're alive. God has forgiven your sins. He's let you live. He could have destroyed you. He could have let you die so many times. He saved your life. You're still here. So treat that as a marvelous, marvelous grace from God, and believe. Believe, because there's not much time left, my friends. There's not much time left. We all are due justice, yet we have received mercy. Either way, hope this was inspiring. Hope you learned something about your relationship with God, and we'll see you next time. Take care. God bless.